Welcome back everybody, it's good to see you again. I hope you all enjoyed your holidays. I'm actually going to start off the year with a smaller but kind of important project, the handlebar controls. The stock controls are way too bulky and way too ugly, so they'll have to go. And I already know what you're thinking, why don't you just run without any handlebar controls at all? Well, where I'm at, that's actually illegal. And I really don't feel like getting into the discussion if shoppers should be legal or not. For me personally, a shopper can be whatever you want it to be, and I want this shopper to be legal. Having said that, I actually don't use the handlebar controls that much, so I don't really mind if they are a bit finicky to use. I've been shopping around and there are tons of alternatives out there, but most of them are either really expensive or they are kind of ugly. And most of the time, they're actually both. So I guess I just have to make my own. Why is it that every time I intend to buy something and I start doing my research, I always end up with the conclusion that I will have to make it myself. And it always ends up being way more work than I first anticipate. But at the same time, it's actually quite fun as well. I do have a few requirements for my controls. First of all, they need to look good. And for me, good looking controls are no controls. So they need to be really minimal and just blend in perfectly. And secondly, I need to be able to maneuver them in a reasonable fashion. And I actually ride with gloves most of the time, so I need to be able to use them while wearing my gloves. And for them to be legal, I need them to allow me to turn my high beam on and off, honk my horn, and control my left and right indicators. And while looking through one of my electronic stash bins, I actually found these. Tiny switches. And I think these are small enough to fit the bill of being almost invisible. And they are momentary, and that basically means that when I flick them, they return to their initial state by themselves. And I can flick them both ways. And that means that I can have 2 functions on each switch, so I can have 4 functions with just 2 switches. The fact that these are momentary actually led me down into an insane rabbit hole trying to figure out how these will be able to control all my stuff. But that is for another video. And honestly, I don't think you want to miss that, because I think I will have to create something pretty cool to get these running. And to mount these, I think I will just drill 2 holes in the handlebars and pull them through. Should be easy enough. I thought that drilling these holes would be a challenge, but it actually turned out to be quite easy. But getting these tiny switches into place, I'm sure will be a proper challenge. I actually picked up a special pair of extra long pliers, and they are actually quite cool. They are double hinged. I hope these will help me get this into place. I can see it in there, now I just need to get it out. Maybe if I have a second pair of pliers. Maybe if I had something smaller. A pair of tweezers might be better. Come on. Come on. So close. Yes. Well, we're not. Oh, shit. Yeah. I actually have these kind of locking tweezers. Maybe I can just put those on. Yeah, now will stay in place. I have actually 3D printed these tiny little washers. They are rounded on the inside and flat on the outside. Special washer on. And a locking washer. And then the tiny little nut. The first one is in place, and I think I will just put in the second one and I will get back to you in a moment. Both switches are in place, and so far I think it looks pretty good. I think the black washers looks quite alright, but I actually found this acrylic effects paint in my cabinet, and I think I'm gonna try to spray them down and see if that looks any better. After that I will just put everything back together, and I actually think we are done. Do you remember how I told you that I will take off the plastic washers and paint them? Well, I actually did. I did take them off and I did paint them. But when taking the washers off, I wanted to make sure that the switches stayed in place, so I tied them down with only the nut. And I must say, I think it looks pretty good. I don't think we need those washers at all. One thing that we might need though is the locking washer that was on there as well. But I think that a drop of super glue on the threads will make sure that these switches stays in place. And I actually printed this little thing that will go inside the handlebar, and it makes sure that the switch can't rotate sideways. And I think that should be enough to keep them in place. Alright, I'll move out of the way and I'll let you have a look at the final result. I think these handlebar controls turned out looking really good. And I know that they are not ready to sit outside in the weather, but I'm not too worried about it. They don't control anything super important, and if they fail, they are cheap and quite easy to replace. I guess you can say this was a small step for man, and kind of a small step for the build as well. But we are starting the new year on a roll, and that's what's important. And I think this means that the wiring portion of this build has officially begun. And that is actually quite exciting. It means that we have a few pretty cool projects lined up. I need to wire up these switches, and that actually includes creating a custom control box. And I need to do the actual wiring of the bike, and I need to make the internals of the taillight. So there's a lot of fun stuff ahead of us. Thank you for watching, and I see you later. Bye!